kind of in line with since I've been here, I'm really fortunate that the School of Education and Human Sciences has supported my research over the 10 years I've been here. They've funded a number of my projects, and in line with that, I feel very grateful to receive funding for this current project as well. So I'm just extremely grateful. It started a couple years ago. We started looking at MBA primary logos, and what we kind of discovered was that almost half of the MBA teams have changed their primary logo since 2014 and 2015. So they've engaged in some minor or major primary logo redesigns. So me and a researcher from UMass Boston took an interest in this, and we started looking at the rebrand literature and found there wasn't a lot of literature on rebrands. But what we did find is one group of researchers looked at the type of rebrand, whether it was a minor rebrand, which they called evolutionary, or if it was a really major rebrand, which was called revolutionary. And so our interest was more in, with these redesigns, were the new primary logos being perceived as retro, or were they being perceived as modern, a modern kind of update? So in a previous study, we came up with a typology that looked at whether MBA logos were a revolutionary rebrand or an evolutionary rebrand, but then also fans that we surveyed looked at the new logos and said, do you consider this to be a retro rebrand or a modern rebrand? So that kind of set the stage for this current project, was that taxonomy looking at the retro and modern rebrands. And in the current project that we're doing, we're taking that taxonomy and looking at basically if you did a retro rebrand, how does that influence what's called heritage perceptions, brand heritage perceptions? How does that influence nostalgic feelings that fans have? And then ultimately, how do fans view the kind of value perceptions of that primary logo? So that's the current project, is taking that taxonomy, looking at did you do a modern rebrand, a retro rebrand, was it a minor update, was it a major update, and then how does that influence how people perceive those logos? One thing we've learned is, while the industry is engaging in a lot of rebrands, I would say the research on it has been pretty scant and has not kind of kept up with what I would say is a very big trend in the MBA. Secondly, there just hasn't been a lot of consideration for looking at, strategically our teams going back to their retro logos, our teams doing more of like a modern, maybe minimalist rebrand, those kind of questions, and then how that influences how fans perceive this branding, there really hasn't been a lot done. So that's something we're really excited about, is trying to understand these different types of rebrands, but then also how does that influence how fans think, feel, and act.